Okay.
Oh,
Actually, we had I had a couple technical questions submitted to me this week. So, and we're kind of talking about that. So I will use that as sort of a segue to these other questions. Ken, are you there? Ken is not there. Anyway, so we were earlier on this week, we were wondering which registrars actually show if domains are fast transferable at Afternic or not. He was complaining about, not most registrars that have that option don't necessarily make it easy to find out. And he was just wondering that, and he'll watch it on repeat, I guess. But do any of you guys know any registrars that actually show that information? Because he was frustrated that he's unable to see a lot of the times whether domains are actually not eligible, if they are actually set as fast transferable or not. Sorry.
Well,
Bulk Register allows that.
Bulk register?
Yeah. I forget the link, but they do allow you to see which fast transfer services you have activated for each domain, and then it allows you to revoke them.
Oh, okay. Wow. Like within their control panel.
Yeah, within a Bulk Register user interface. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I don't know if this is what you're asking or not, but I just put a link in the chat for a thing that lists all of the network partners that are involved with the Afternic fast transfer.
Yeah, it's a bit different, but that's very useful. That's actually really good also. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, because people were wondering, Ken was wondering where he could actually see if his domains were, because there was another question.
If it's playing or not, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because there's no way of telling. He told me there's no way of telling. I'm not an expert in Afternic stuff, so I couldn't answer that question. So I brought it here. I was hoping he was here because the goal was to talk about it for 2 minutes now and have people send him all the registrars this week, and we come back, report it next week. So I guess that's not going to happen, or you can send it to me if you want. But the other question also was in the same regard, have people noticed that fast transfer sort of turns off automatically 30 days before expiration? Or is there a certain deadline before if it's only expiration? Because a couple of people mentioned it happened sometimes before expiration, and they were wondering if it was just a trigger, if it was just a date, like if you didn't renew your domains before such and such a date before expiration, would it automatically get bounced out of fast transfer status?
I always assumed it was at expiration. But...
So did I. And a couple people said they were sure that was 30 days. So anybody else?
I'm kind of back and forth on, like, when I worked with GoDaddy's domain product management team, fast transfer wasn't a thing back then, but I think there's a lot of complexities to it, like, because a registrar can have some legal liability if something is, supposedly renewed, but it's not really in anyone's hands. Yeah. And so if there were, say, a buyer, but then that were fraudulent or refunded for some reason, I would think, just off the cuff as a registrar, that I would have some couple day space beforehand. Like, I don't have the whole thing thought through here, but
yeah, a little buffer type of thing.
I would say probably a handful. Yeah.
Yeah. So if any of you guys kind of have a little bit more awareness of how that works, whatever it is, check it out this week and maybe come back next week with an answer of some kind. I'm trying to look in text here. Yeah, I said everything too in the chat. I'm always busy doing a bunch of stuff. So if you guys are directing chats to me, sometimes it's just I don't see it. So repeat it a couple of times or whatever it is. Anyhow, so anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
Yeah, Arif, I have one question actually, and maybe it may be better to discuss that next week, but since we have quite a few people on as well, you might be able to help me now. In the last 2 weeks, I received 3 different emails, all from GoDaddy, And I'm reading, it says, someone is trying to contact you regarding, and then my domain name. And it basically says, we received a request from someone who would like to contact you regarding, again, your domain name. And it says this contact method is designed to provide a way for people who are interested in your domain name, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I would like my whois info to be made public, but I guess the default right now with GoDaddy is to keep it hidden. And I don't like that. I mean, I've made quite a few sales from people who have contacted me through whois, and I like that. The question I have is, are there any registrars who are defying whatever people are saying about keeping that hidden and make that public? Because I would love to transfer my domain names from GoDaddy to that registrar, knowing that my whois info is going to be available. Anybody can help me with that?
The thing is that it's for GoDaddy, it's no longer whois, right? It's something, they changed it a couple months ago to something
European thing.
RDAP.
similar. That was it, RDAP? You said?
RDAP's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's not, that's a good question, because I have the same thing. Like I've gotten a lot of my sales through email, like whois inquiries, and I don't know if there's an opt-out. I haven't really played around with it much. And has anybody, Jotham,
Yeah, I'm living this right now. So there's working groups working on it. And it's basically, everything is kind of hamstrung because of the GDPR and new stuff. There's a new California privacy law as well. And there's some evolving in India and in Brazil.
Europe, I guess, quite a bit.
European Union started it.
Yeah, the EU with GDPR was really kind of a catalyst for this. So Joseph, I forget, is Turkey part of the EU? No, right?
No.
Yeah. So you're not a European citizen, are you?
No, actually, okay, this is interesting. I'm actually an American citizen who happens to live in Istanbul. So I have an American address that is in the whois, so I have no problem with this. I'm actually an American. I pay my taxes in the US, so and my address is in the US. So I just happen to be in Istanbul right now. So the point is, no, it's not a Turkish address. It's a US address.
But it doesn't matter, because every country can have so many different rules, and as new privacy laws are developed. So really the question to me is, I mean, I understand and sympathize with your loss of leads. However, do you want your domains, your entire investment, at a registrar that doesn't follow the law, circumvents the law, or is playing Russian roulette, where maybe the law right there for if you're in this country and in this criteria and a citizen of this country and doing business only in this country, I mean, the chance of you losing your domains or having other major problems with that registrar are probably more damaging to your domain portfolio and return on investment than lost leads or lost time because you have to change the whois or, change the site to point somewhere else to indicate that it's for sale, as unfortunate as that is.
Yeah.
I kind of think there's a middle ground, though. It seems like the problem is that the registrars, some of them make it relatively, well, GoDaddy's doing a little bit at the bottom of the whois. You can send that message like he's getting. Other ones don't do it at all, and it's an absolute nightmare to try and contact the person. And the registrar are just wedging themselves into the brokering process, at their benefit, at the expense of us, by these new changes.
Yeah, I think
so it's like, what registrar is going to make it somewhat easy for someone to go through this process and find the owner, at least pass the message along?
Yeah, I think the ideal would be to have an opt-out, but the problem with that, I think what Jotham was asking Joseph, if he was an EU citizen, is that the EU, correct me if I'm wrong, Jotham, but I think the EU law applies to all EU citizens, whether or not they are in the EU. So if you're an EU citizen, but your address is in the United States, if GoDaddy publishes your whois info, because you're an EU citizen, they could get legally in trouble. It's a really weird, messed up law. But Jotham, am I correct in that?
I mean, so that the quick way to put it, you're nailing it. There's a lot of unknown territory with respect to how it's going to get enforced, and the consequences should you violate it are awful, like existential for a registrar the size of mine. They're designed to take like millions of dollars and some percentage of gross sales, or it's huge. I think it was originally designed, this is just, we're recording this part. So the purpose for which it was designed, let me revise and be correct in how I say this. The purpose it was designed for was really to protect the privacy of individuals within the European Union. And it's kind of a leading thing. If you're a person who it protects, it's really fantastic. It didn't necessarily explore some of the existing technologies and how it would actually get used. But the consequences of it have caused people to just go out of their way to make sure they're not exposing themselves to risk as a result of this. So a lot of registrars took and said, well, this person is a registrant, and I don't know if they're necessarily a natural person or a legal person. We don't capture that when we register domains. So we're just going to treat everything as if, so we're not exposing them to privacy violations that could expose us to business risk. So let's just shut off the who is for these things. Let's redact everything except for what helps people find people. And that has caused lots and lots of grief to throughout the whole ICANNOverse. So what you've got going on right now, Joseph, is where whois gets shut down like that. The thing that has to happen is there's some form of a form that somebody can fill out so that they can get in touch with the domain owner for whatever purpose. Yeah. And that was sort of a minimum that could be put in place so that somebody could be contacted. So you're receiving those, and they're probably legit, but you still kind of get some crap there. I will tell you, GoDaddy not charging for doing that, it's essentially getting free privacy proxy, right? I have domains that I just recently purchased on Namejet or Snap Names, where the name gets pushed into Network Solutions, and they are delighted to charge me through the nose to protect my privacy. Otherwise, that whois information is published, and I get quite a lot of solicitors calling me and offering me web services on the domain or things of that nature, which I would gladly not receive. So it's kind of like a give and take. Do you want to be contacted about these sales in a legitimate manner? Absolutely. Sure. But do you want to get offers for accounting services or receive spam, that somebody has been recording all of your video and websites you visit and want Bitcoin to not publish it to all your friends? You're just going to get all kinds of junk otherwise.
Why not use a throwaway email address or something when you reply to this?
Yeah, very interesting. I'm still getting those. In fact, I get these a lot from people with US phone numbers, but they're from India. Mm-hmm. And they ask me about, why did I register, this domain name? And apparently they have my contact information, but GoDaddy does not publish that. So I don't know how they're getting that. I'm tearing my hair out for that one, because again, GoDaddy seems to have privacy, but people seem to know about domains that I've registered, and they're calling me to try to sell me web design services. You too, right? yeah, a lot of us.
Yeah, all the time. Are these brand new domains that are new to you, or are they domains you had from before? Could they just be gathering old data and mailing and merging the two?
No, some of them have been hand registered domains that I registered like 2 weeks ago, and like 3 days later I get this call from somebody from California or Massachusetts, whatever, with an Indian accent. Yeah. And they want to sell me, and then it says, why are you registering those domain names? And forget it. But anyhow,
they're asking not because they want to know. They're asking because it opens the door. Because when you reply, it opens the door. Because most people say, oh, I want to build a company, right, or
exactly.
website. So it's just their way of opening communications for you to be a potential buyer for their web development services.
I mean, no, that I know. I mean, I have nothing against telemarketers, but it's just that, I mean, if my whose ID is being hidden, then it should be hidden for everybody. But I would rather opt in or opt out. I mean, I don't know if there is one way of addressing that, and if enough domain investors want to have that whois info available, to be able to perhaps petition ICANN and say, listen, let people who want to hide be able to hide. Those that want to give that information be made available, to have that made available, to be able to opt in or opt out. That's really what I'm trying to.
Yeah, and you know, in fairness to ICANN, because I will bash ICANN on a lot of levels,
Yeah.
but this is not an ICANN issue. The GDPR was imposed for all data on every level throughout Europe for every European citizen, whether they are in Europe or not. So, and the penalties, as Jonathan said, are severe, like millions of dollars. Severe, so that so what happens now is that it's all new. So all these registrars who operate with even one European client are like paranoid because they don't want to make a mistake of being the first one that is, I mean, there might already been a couple, but I mean, they don't want to be the ones that are picked on by whatever government services is. And it was never, the GDPR was never intended to influence domains. It was because it encompasses everything and domains is part of everything. It became part of it. And there's no dedicated solution that was really thought of. I mean, they did think of trying to do stuff ahead of time, but not really. And there's only so much they can do if a registrar is scared of getting, you know, I can't save a registrar from getting sued by the European Union. So at a certain level, yeah, they can standardize things and they could work with the European government to try and figure out a way that, you know, compromise that works for everyone. Like obviously an opt-in and opt-out would be the ultimate solution. But I think the registrars are scared that if one person doesn't opt out or opts in incorrectly, can it be held against them? And the answer to that is, who knows? Who knows? It probably not, but technically they could be liable.
I mean, if you have the ability to say we captured their preference, they designated this preference, then, you know, probably fine. Can I maybe pivot the conversation, because this is a topic that makes its own gravy, right? It's obviously like you know, I've seen people spend days discussing this.
Yeah. The only thing I would add though, Joseph, is that don't rule out the possibility of just the GoDaddy platform being ultra buggy. It could be that there's certain geo areas when they A/B test stuff, the old system is still accessible. So, and look, as I said, I won't censor anybody saying anything about anybody.
Somebody on the inside is selling the information.
As long as, well, yeah, but
No, I highly doubt that.
Yeah, so do I. But I mean, it could be that they haven't fully moved over every country on their platform to the new system, or it could be that the old page is still there, and the person just has that page access, and GoDaddy's not even aware of it. Like I'm telling you, GoDaddy, their platform, love them or not, they have a lot of great things about them. Their platform is a disaster, and there are problems within their platform that they're not even aware of. So
today they talked about that. They tweeted about these front runners, like when someone searches for a domain name, and then somebody's doing packet sniffing and seeing what those domain names are, and if it's high value, they'll just register right away and put it up for sale. Yeah. This is a serious
You're
problem.
talking about front running stuff?
Front running domain names. It happened back in the 90s. It's happening again now. Between the trademark applications and just domain searches on GoDaddy or wherever, it seems to be happening more and more. But with regard to these phone calls coming from India, there's legislation in the US to stop this, but it's a tech issue. The major issue is the phone companies don't want to get rid of telephone spoofing yet because they don't want to all implement it all at once. But these callers calling from India with Massachusetts phone numbers, those aren't real phone numbers. Those are somebody else, some old lady's phone number, for example.
Yeah, they spoof it. They're
spoofing numbers.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're criminal.
It's very easy to do, apparently.
I blocked them, and then they keep calling me from another number.
Yeah, because it's not their number. They just keep making up numbers.
Number. Yeah.
Same thing with your GoDaddy listing.
So I have a quick story I want to tell. I typed the domain name into the chat. So I went and I got a Google voice number. and I registered the name that I put into the chat. And I received within 12 hours, no less than 8 calls from different telemarketers, I'll say overseas, because I don't want to point out any particular culture.
Yeah, they are all over.
And you know, there's a script. There's a script they walk you through. You know, hi, are you planning to do any domain? You know, what are you going to do with your new domain you just registered? You know, we offer web services. We can help you with all this. What is it you plan to do with your domain name? And you know, with great satisfaction, I would say, can you look closely at the domain and maybe give me some opportunities and ideas?
How would you? Yeah, how would you build that out? You know, but again, like in fairness, like as domainers, we're a minority, right? So yeah, for those of us who have 2,000, 3,000 domains, it's a huge issue. But I mean, for most people who have one domain, is it an illegitimate contact for somebody who has web development services to contact somebody buying a domain? You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, it is what it is, right?
Exactly.
Same thing when I get those emails from people saying, oh, this domain is for sale. If it's very similar to one of my own domains, I know it's automated. I have zero interest, but at the same time, if it's something completely different, yes, it's spam. But if it's something that is very close, it's annoying for me. I would rather it stop. But is it something that I think is unethical? That's anyhow. But yeah. Anyway, Jonathan, what was the other topic you want to talk about?
Yeah.
You had another topic you wanted to pivot to.
Well, I was going to go the direction of discussing the the telemarketing stuff. Now, so my registrar, you can opt in to showing off your who is, and there's still quite a few where you can. You just you get that trade-off. You're going to get contacted, but you're going to get contacted, and it is certainly possible for certain names or certain contacts to be able to provide out that info. Yeah, so no, on the topic of telemarketers and just generally kind of reachability for your domains. What I wanted to do is actually ask the group. I got inspired to try out Dan with a big block of names. So I just threw 5,000 names at Dan, and I've already got 2 sales. So
in what time frame? Sorry, what time frame?
5 days. So I had
How many
previously
names, Jonathan?
5,000 names.
Wow.
So they're not all good. Obviously, names. 2 of them are good.
Well, I could probably pitch a few, make them good.
Well, I've got one right now that they pitched me a price. It was a make offer. They gave me a great offer. I just accepted the offer because my son's back in college, and just the timing was like, hey, I can pay a few months of his stuff. So but they've taken forever to, like, they're slow rolling the payment, and the buyer is. So I control the DNS. Is it okay for me to point the domain at a website that says pay up? Pardon me.
Go on, finish the story.
So I was thinking about this. I remember a story of a domain owner who had a beef.com telling a story, back in the early 2000s about, talking to the beef association, and ultimately they didn't want to buy it from him, so he pointed it at PETA.org, and all of a sudden there's an offer. Is that really being bad? Is that something that's super frowned on? Does that give us a bad reputation? Like in this case, the domain, I don't want to say what the domain is, but the domain owner, or the alleged new owner, typically they consummate really quick. Maybe a better question is, what is the average time for between somebody buying and paying on Dan? Is it typically immediate? Is it a day?
Jonathan, I find that if it's not quick, it's frequently bogus. I mean, did you have a back and forth with these people? Was it a buy? Or, you said you accepted their first offer, right?
I did. Yeah.
All
No,
right.
that's a problem if you just, I think you have to be careful with that, because if you accept the first offer right away, then they go, whoa, maybe I offered way too much, I better back off. And I've felt like there's been trouble in those situations.
Well, in this case, it's the .com of something that they have a CCTLD for, so it's an upgrade for them. So, it's really
I've had
their
that happen
problem.
twice
Have you?
at Dan. Mm.
How long
Well,
has it been since they made the offer and not made the payment?
3 days now.
Mm.
Well, I mean, it depends
If
on
it's a
the
corporate
actual
setting and for that
company.
amount, they may be getting the approval. There may be, some reasons. Granted, 3 to 4 days should be about enough time for them to be able
Was it
to
a
pull the
premium
trigger on
domain?
it.
I think it's a premium domain. So,
But is it a
essentially-
credit card amount? Is it under 5,000?
Yeah, it's under 5,000.
Okay, then they should be able to pull the trigger on it.
Right.
Pretty quickly.
That's what's confusing me is they've had to be sent notices from Dan to remind them.
Well, think about this. I mean, when you're in this situation, by them committing to you that they're going to buy it and then they take their time, you've taken it off the market. So you're taking a hit there. So, it's your domain. I think you should have the right to do whatever you want with it until they at least show that they're sincere about it.
Yeah, it seems to me that I've heard of a couple of people mentioning a lot of potentially false sales at Dan, or not a lot, but I mean,
But Justin
a couple,
can see
a
where,
handful.
but Justin said he can see where it's a legitimate use for the sale. It's not just a fake sale. But the thing that I would tend to do is to say, hey, I priced it at that because I thought it would move fast. If you're not going to move fast, let's just call off the deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, one thing that I noticed was that, how do I put this? As the seller, I can go in, I can see the invoices, in the system now on Dan, the way it works. I can see who the buyer is, and I'm wondering if they can see who the seller is, and if this might be some new trick that like lawyers are using to get around the fact that there's no who is to do something like this. Then they've got all the contact information, and then they go around the system. So that was a concern of mine. Have any of you bought a domain on Dan?
Yeah, I bought a couple.
So have you been able, if you're before you actually pay, so you get the invoice generated that you have to pay, do you get a chance to see who the seller is?
No.
Before you pay?
No.
No.
Okay. So that helps me at least with that concern. So I think I'm just being impatient, and I'm willing to probably wait until Monday.
Well, I had, to share into that, I had 2 names. Well, I had 80 names at Dan. And I sold 2 within 3 days. Well, I say sold. I had 2 offers. Both of them were new GTLDs. I had $100 offers on both quite similar. I accepted them because at this stage I was just liquidating. So I'm like, to help, I let it go. And I heard nothing back. I waited for weeks. I waited till the end of the month. I reached out to support at Dan, and they're really great. Like, they're a good platform with things like that. They come back to you pretty quick. And they said, we followed up twice. I just let it go. And that was it. So I just don't know how, to accept an offer of $100, those people probably put it out there to be like, oh, he's probably not going to accept it, but it's a bonus if he does. And then when I accepted it, they probably didn't expect it. And then, like someone mentioned, they probably thought it was overpriced or something, which, it wasn't. They were fairly good names, worth $100. But yeah, it just didn't resolve. It just died off a death. And the guys at Dan just said, well, we can't do anything about it. We reminded them. That's it.
I think probably half of my half of my offers at Dan have ended up being like your situation, where they just end up disappearing. I think that I've heard that this happens, that, people put those lowball offers in there just to see what you'll do, because then they come back later on.
Buyer's remorse is unfortunately everywhere.
From it?
It's just buyer's remorse. Doesn't matter the marketplace. You begin the offer. It's happened to me at Afternic at all the markets. You start a transaction, they don't close it.
It's just bizarre, isn't it? You know,
Same problem last week with FT, like same issue. My minimum offer was 500. My buy it now price was 1,000, and they offered me 750. I said deal, and nothing happened.
They just went off the grid.
I wish that Dan would, you know, maybe pre-qualify them and then tie their credit cards so that as soon as they say yes, I mean, we're obligated, you know, legally. So why aren't they?
Charge them.
They should have to pay.
So that was, I think you have a good point there, Thomas. So I was going through and reviewing their agreements and everything. You know, I think me pointing the DNS at their system, they now have a page up that says this domain was bought and is in the process of, you know, concluding. But there's nothing that says that I can't go and change the DNS and point it at something until it transfers.
That's right.
I do that. I just have it listed at Dan. I don't point a DNS there.
I don't give them anything until they pay.
You meaning to list, Jonathan?
Well, I was just being lazy, right? I mean, I just threw all the DNS
have
at
good
them.
landers and stuff, yeah.
Well, so, you know, with 5,000 names, what I did is I did the DNS, and then they give you a custom DNS server to validate. And so I just was like, okay, plugged in a program, bip, 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 it does its thing, and they all get parked.
Yeah.
So,
and with 5,000 of them, it's just easier, isn't it?
yeah, I just come check in on every once in a while and see if it's crashed. It ran right through, no problem. And then they go and validate the names. You have to go and submit them. But because it's in the DNS, if it's in somebody else's account or something like that, it's like, yeah, no, this is proof of ownership. This is the person who owns it.
So Ezekiel, Ezekiel's just said in the chat that they call the buyer. They do, but only, I believe it's only if it's over a certain amount. If it's $100 offer, it's only when they've had the invoice and not paid. It's not at the offer point, because I actually clarified that, and because I heard the same. And they said, no, it's only when we have an invoice presented and they haven't paid.
So a phone number is, they do have phone numbers, because all of when Dan tries to send messages to them, it sounds like it's always by, you know, some real light email, you know, email touch, and that's it.
And people put spammy numbers in too, right?
Yeah, the system, the Dan system will take a fake number for sure.
Yeah,
but they will provide you with the email, the name, and the number if the deal falls through. But I wanted to let Jonathan know that I went back and looked at one of my purchases from Dan, and whatever you have as your buyer profile, like if it shows up on your sales page, that will show up in the purchase, but it doesn't give them any more information than you make public on Dan.
Right.
From a purchaser standpoint. So I did want to correct that, because it does show something, but it is only what they would have already seen going through the purchase process.
Well, I don't want to be punitive or anything. I just probably should be patient. Sometimes larger companies do this, but the buyer is listed as the chief executive officer directly of this company. They're a large company I had heard of, and I'm good with it. So I'll be patient up to a certain point.
See, on many platforms, they if you click buy now, it just takes you to checkout. You take your credit card, it's done.
Yeah.
What could be really nice, I think someone mentioned, is if you accept an offer, it's binding. You know, automatically your card's in there. You can't submit an offer maybe below a certain price. You know, if you get to $2,000 or something, sure, there needs to be a bit of a vetting process. But at $100, it should just be checked out. Like if you accept it, the trigger just goes and charges the card.
Well, because I have not talked about the domain, I will talk about the amount. The amount was $4,500. So that is,
it's fairly chunky.
Josh mentioned, sure, but a lot of people can get that through on a credit card without too much issue.
That should be done, particularly if the guy's the CEO of the company. He should have access to that.
Absolutely.
Credit card, yeah.
He can just push the button.
The amount was it after make offer, or was it just like a buy it now?
Make offer.
Make offer. Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, look, look, these companies that have the highest probably failure rates, if you call it failure rate or incompletion rates, are probably because they're aggressively trying to get people to come on, and they'll offer the least resistance possible.
Yeah, they lower the boundaries.
There's no verification. There's no nothing else. And it's long term, it's in the interest because everybody's interest, because the lower the friction is to buy a domain, the better. But the inverse of that, the side effect of that is that there'll be a lot more false positives.
Well, I think that the person selling the domain should be able to decide to opt in or opt out of a pre-qualified thing. I should be able to say, well, I don't want anyone approaching me unless they've verified themselves to Dan and they have a credit card on file.
So that would, even if that means losing 2/3 of your sales.
Yeah, because I mean, 2/3 of at least half of them are these tire kicking, non-paying people.
But those are, if you understand, or if you consider that those sales never would have happened anyways, then you're giving rid of 2/3 of your sales just for the inconvenience of having a couple of
the less friction, the more you sell.
But I mean, is it just to not get false positives? Is it worth losing sales over?
Or at least a follow-up afterwards, I mean, if a person has a habit of doing this, at least then Dan should put them on some kind of list or something.
But I think most domain buyers in that $2,000 to $5,000 range are not necessarily people who buy multiple domains specifically on Dan. Like, I'm not saying there aren't any, but I'm just saying I think the majority will be one shot or two shots, or people who even look for the domain and register on the fly for that.
Well, I did have something to discuss once we would not be recording in and around the flake buyer, flake offer concept. But I didn't mean to dominate the conversation so much, and thanks for entertaining the discussion. I really appreciate the wisdom and experience of everybody here on going down this path.
It's on topic, so don't apologize if it's
it's good.
topic, does anybody have anything else sort of on topic, any sales or anything like that they want to talk, or I could stop? Either the goal, my goal was to stop recording around 6:30, but I mean, again, it doesn't matter. But anybody have anything on topic they want to say? Oh, Riz, got an offer? Sure. Okay, we can discuss that. Riz, are you there?
The message just came in.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, I'm here. Actually, I got offer on rose.com, $23,000.
Nice.
And
23,000.
the broker of Afternic started from 12,500 started bid. And I counted 100,000 with. So what you guys think?
He started from 1,500.
No.
What was the first offer?
12,500.
12,500.
12,500. Okay. And you counted with 100.
Yeah, that's not my wheelhouse.
And funny thing is, when I received the offer of 23,000, so I told broker to do it in 95,000. So what she said that if you want 95,000 amount, it would be 108,000.
It would be what? Sorry, we didn't hear the rest of that. It would be what?
It will be 108,000. All right, because they were thinking that I'm asking net 95,000.
Yeah.
So what happened here when they told this to buyer said that on landing page it's showing 100,000 and you are telling us to pay 108,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, if on the landing page it's 1,000, you have to take in consideration that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I said to her, that just I asked 95,000. It means it's not net. I will pay the commission or whatsoever it is.
So you would end up with about 80,000 or something.
Is that dollars? Is that in dollars? Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's those 4L pronounceable domains are going up in value. Now, unfortunately, that's not my wheelhouse, so I don't know how high they're going up to. Obviously it's a misspell of rose. So
but it's not a misspell.
Oh yeah, rose as in rise, past tense of rise. Yeah.
And also it's in another one language it's roses.
Pardon me?
in one language, it's mean roses.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
Actually, it's
smaller,
roses.
right? Yeah, the opening offer was 12.5K USD, and he countered with 100, and then the potential buyer re-offered 23K, and after that is when you went down to 95. Is that correct?
Yeah. After that, I went to the 95,000.
So you counted with 95, and I guess he's just asking like what would be a happy medium. What do you guys think it's worth? Anybody here dealing those kinds of domains?
I think I was thinking about that. I should take it if it is in between 55 or
In
like
between
70. So
In between what and what?
55 to 65. After more, like back and forth, I know that they will be playing. So what do you guys think? Is it fair amount or what?
Yeah, I was thinking that 75K would probably be the point that I would say yes. I just looked it up, and actually there is a singing artist that is currently active and fairly young, that is operating under the name Rose. With the O has the funky slash through it, but I think that it would translate to your domain if they wanted to get the perfect.com to match that artist. So personally, I think 75K is like probably my floor on that. I'm not saying don't take 68, but I wouldn't go under 50 by any means, because I think it's just too solid of a name. And if that's them going after this, then she's backed by labels, and
That's okay. Here is a page with on the chat.
Riz, we can't hear you.
Please speak straight into the mic.
Oh, sorry. Rose.net is for sale at 9,000. So this is page chatted, send the message.
Yeah, order of
So I was
magnitude
thinking
10
that,
times.
a lot of times at this stage of the negotiation, each side is kind of calling their witnesses. You know what I mean? They're going to call, but they really haven't done that. They've just said, we're going to, but I think the .net being for sale at 9 kind of gives you an easy way to say, well, 10, we usually price comms at 100 times the net, but even at 10 times the net, it's 90 in terms of what else they could buy. So that may give you a reason to stay really firm at the 90 to 100, and then emotionally prepare yourself to take the 74 or the 69 and just ask yourself, would I do it? And I don't know what the answer is, yes or no. I mean, you've been strong in the past and gotten more, but at least if that helps you in the jousting, it's a nice way to describe why you want the 90.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not a big 4L guy, but I mean, I've listened to Josh's podcast the last few months, and I know the 4L's pronounceable words, they're going up. I've always been a big no on 4L domains in general, but pronounceable and
Well, that's a CV as well, isn't it?
Well, no, it's more than that. It's a word, right? It's
a pronounceable 4-letter CV.
Yeah, it's a misspell of rose the flower, but it's also a real word. But I think the usage is more likely to be misspell of the flower or just a brand. So like I don't see it being used for the word for sense of rise, but it's still a strong enough, phonetically, and it does have that association with the flower, but it's a little bit different, that it's worth more than the standard CV, I would think, and by a good, good margin. So Ezekiel, he can't really count at 150 because he already counted at
it's 100 already. Yeah.
So, if it was me, I would hold firm in what people were talking about. Yeah, exactly. The 70 to 90 sweet spot. And again, it depends on how much you want to move it or not. If you want to move it, go a little bit lower. And if you don't need to move it, hold a little bit firmer. Because, eventually you have to also ask, when's the next time somebody's going to offer, more than 50K for that domain? It might be a while. It's worth that but it's not necessarily an easy sell either, because those type of buyers, at that price, there are other words they can use. But again, if it's an artist that's already out, that's getting really hot, I don't think there's as much money in the music industry as there used to be, but there is still money. And if it's somebody who's poised to be, on the radio every day, or somebody that's in the rotation of all the TV shows or whatever it is, then there's value there.
Yeah,
musicians have to go more on the live stream, and if they want to go for live streaming and online, the exact match name is much better for them. So yeah, there may not be as much music, but they gotta go online and live stream their concerts and their music.
Yeah, but with musicians, there's so many other outlets that they can get big on. I mean, obviously, yes, they want their exact match, but it's not. I mean, they have so many other outlets like YouTube and other places to get popular.
Yep.
That 100% having their domain is essential, but is it essential enough for them to spend 100,000 ish? Do they have?
That's a different story. They'd have to be a very big group to justify that number.
Yeah. I mean, money in the music industry is really. I mean, look, I'm telling you, like I used to have I got on domains because I used to have a tens of thousands member DJ and club music website, and so I'm very familiar with the model nowadays where the money in music is just so polarized. So you'll have like the top 100 artists where money is just no object, and then like from 101 and below, which 100 sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And then below that point, it's like no, they're it's not that they're struggling, but they definitely don't have 6 figures on domain. So.
Yep.
I'm looking at the recent sale of Fiber FIBR.com for 75, and I think Rose is a much stronger name. Now, I mentioned the artist, and that's possibly your buyer, but then Frank put in something in here, Rose Dist, for they're selling ammo. And I'll tell you right now, in the United States, you can't find ammo. They're running their presses and their machines to make it 24/7 and selling out immediately. You've got sites that have like timed postings of their available inventory on a daily basis. So it could very easily be them. It could be somebody we haven't talked about. But just looking at the recent sales, I think you should have a strong hand on this one. And there's certainly times where you can be weak and take some profits. But I think you got a really solid name here, Riz.
Riz, I was wondering, have you ever actually asked them what they plan to do with it and how they've come up with the value that they have on the name? I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask and see if they say what they're going to be doing with it. Because then if it is one of these scenarios, you can get into a much, more powerful conversation about how they're going to use it and how they're going to get returns on it.
Riz?
Yeah, actually, bro, I asked broker that who is the buyer, but they are not willing to tell me who is the buyer.
Afternic, yeah.
Yeah, Afternic. I tried to ask them, but they are not saying that. They are not telling me who is the buyer.
Yeah, Riz, I just put that in the chat. I just checked because whenever I see a name with an O in it, the letter O, sometimes I see an equivalent of it as a number 0 that looks like an O. And I checked with Rose.com, and it's a Chinese site. It points to a soccer site, and the Chinese love those 4-letter words. So it's very possible that it could be them. So so it could be. I mean, you're talking about maybe this musician, but it could also be them. So I would say go for 75K. I think 75K would be what I would sell it for. You can hold. Those are only going to go up in price.
I think it's a sweet spot. Actually, if I will be asking that, maybe buyer would be interested.
Riz, one more thing. If your broker may know who the buyer is, but isn't willing to tell you for confidentiality reasons, you might just theoretically say to him or her, have you talked, do you know what they're doing, even though you can't tell me? And if they say yes, then maybe say, well, have you talked to them about where they're arriving at their price and how they're going to be using it, and kind of maybe coach them into how are they trying to convince this person?
All right, Kina, let me tell you one very interesting story. Last month, I sold godoctor.com, and it was also through GoDaddy broker, all right? I tried to ask him a lot of time, who is the buyer, who is the buyer? He didn't told me that, all right? And the buyer who purchased the domain, he was the same buyer who offered me 11,000 3 months ago and didn't buy the name from me. But through GoDaddy broker, he paid me 14,300. So I mean, I asked him a lot of times on the phone, and he didn't told me that from which country he is, why he wanted, or whatever the game. He was stick on one thing, that how much is the price? How much is the price? That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's it's GoDaddy. It's weird sometimes, man. Their brokerage service communication. I'm hesitant sometimes, because sometimes they'll get back to you like a week later, and it's like nothing happened. I think for some of them, the sense of urgency is not always there.
Yeah, true.
Well, they have a lot of names, and I mean, that's your name, and so it's your baby, and they've got a zillion of them, and a lot of times it depends on the person you happen to have as your broker, and so.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, it's because it's sometimes I feel like when I go back to them after a few days or a week, it's like, oh yeah, I'll reach out to them. It's like, well,
But
I already gave you.
I had a great.
Arif, actually, it's not weird. In my opinion, actually, they are hiding, because if they tell us who is the buyer, we can go directly to them and try to make the deal and take down the 20% or whatever. Because in rose.com or godoctor.com, if we calculate 20%, is too much. So considering that.
No, I'm not suggesting that you ask them for that information. I'm just suggesting that you ask them what they're doing to convince that person that your price is appropriate.
And the question is if you ask them,
Riz, you're gonna have to talk without the microphone moving, or because we don't hear much what you say.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, no, go ahead, just talk, but like keep your microphone. I don't know if you're on a headphone.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Now you're perfect. We hear you perfectly.
Let me ask you that if we asking that what they are going to do. So if they tell me that she's a musician or he's a musician, whatever. So what I'm gonna do? Like, they know that I will be trying to find out on Google who is the singer.
Yeah,
so
but
I can.
Yeah, what Kina is saying isn't to ask them what the person is doing. She's telling you to ask the broker, are you asking this person? Like, she's saying, let's say the broker's name is Bob. So she's saying to Bob, Bob, are you asking the potential buyer what they're going to do with it? How are you trying to convince the buyer? So she's not telling you to tell Bob to tell you what they say, but she's asking you to tell the broker just to be sure that are you really asking him all the questions you can be asking? How are you really going as far as you can to convince the buyer, which is a fair question. She's not saying that that Bob should give you personal sort of information, but just to make sure that Bob is getting the information and having that discussion with a potential buyer. Because I guess you're saying, sometimes some brokers are, I mean, exactly that. Some brokers are great. Some brokers are a little bit lazier than others, I'm guessing.
Well, some are just doing that back and forth that Riz could be doing himself. Now, I happen to have gotten a very good broker one time at GoDaddy, and he actually was receptive and took a video that I sent him that actually Alan Hack had done about, talking to the potential buyer about the value of the name and what's their vision. And this broker got really excited about these ideas of how to negotiate better, and he actually implemented some of it. And because he maybe hadn't thought of all these ways that he could convince that buyer to up the ante. And I really think, you know, it does, you have to be convincing. You can't just throw numbers back and forth. And I always ask the person, where did you arrive at this 23,000? Like, why is this only worth 23,000 to you? And try to, you know, if you have more understanding, that's how you get them to come up, I feel. And so, yeah, and maybe you should, you know, see if you're happy with your broker and happy with their strategy. I'd be asking them, what is the strategy that you're using?
All right. Thank you, Kina.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that with $2,000. Well, I mean, you could do that for $2,000 domains, but I would definitely do that if I had a domain like that and it was already opening offer of in the 5 figures. It's you know, you have a right.
Yes,
you have a right to. You have a right to know what your broker is doing.
Opening offer was interesting, so that's why I was
Very
like,
interesting,
I reacted.
Yeah.
Else I wouldn't, because I had a lot of offers in 5,000, 8,000 range. I didn't react, but it came through broker and 12,500, so I reacted.
Yeah. So on this one, I think these types of domains, now that all the you know, the good single words are gone, I think that's those 4 L's that are like good 4 L's, like meaningful and pronounceable and rememberable. I think they have they're poised to be the next big thing almost, you know. And again, I'm against standard random 4 L's. I'm really not in favor of them, but if they
I have also cars.com.
Yeah. Oh, with a Z, yeah, I see it there now. Yeah. Anyhow, all right. So
it's same like that, you know. Rose cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Z on the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know which is better.
I like Rose.
Yeah, I do too. Like, I mean, I'm
It's
not saying
CVCV too.
the Z is bad. It's still good.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, Riz, the Rose thing, just, you know, another way to look at that name too. When I read that, when you put that on the other chat, I thought about how like a person rises. To me, it's a word like, you know, comes with across with success. Like, you know, I rose. You know, I didn't think of the flower. That wasn't my first thought. My first thought was something like that. So, you know, you might want to, you might check to see if there's other comparable names with that kind of industry that might give you a better idea how to evaluate it too.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
All right. Anybody else have anything else on topic, or we let stop recording? Let Jonathan loose a little bit.
I've got more to say when we're not recording.
Okay, not recording also. Okay, so on that note, I will.
Oh, hey, wait! Don't pause it yet. This is the thing where you tease. You know, like if people are interested in joining or participating, they go to thedomainsocial.com and sign up. Because then, if you're on the call, you might be able to hear this part that you're not going to see on YouTube.
Yeah, craziness that happened last week.
Oh my goodness!
I actually forwarded. I own youhadtobethere.com. I forwarded that to the main social. So to sign up, you can go to youhadtobethere.com or to thedomainsocial.com and sign up there. But also, when I do rebroadcast on YouTube, I do put the bookends with the flash little screen that says you know, go to subscribe. So the info's there. Thank you everybody for joining this week. We will pause recording and talk about all kinds of crazy stuff that you're all gonna miss, right? And you wish you had some kind of way to soothe your stress. All right. Thanks everyone, and recording.